Our next game is Quirk.
Not spelled with a Q like I originally thought.
And me, you. Yeah, that's how I spelled it, and I supposedly love it.
I blame Ed Boon.
which was nominated by Punk Sucks on iTunes, which means we had no choice but to rank it immediately. It was developed by Atlas. It was published by Atlas in Japan, Nintendo in Europe, and Acclaim, those purveyors of quality, in the United States. The platform was Game Boy, and its earliest release date was November 24th, 1989 in Japan. So Quirk is if you know what Sokoban is, it is kind of a Sokoban Plus. It is a block-pushing puzzle game that involves, it's kind of a cross between Sokoban and Adventures of Lolo, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Huh. But
it's actually a pretty good comparison point. I hadn't thought of Lolo.
Well, Lolo has more action-type elements because there are bad guys in it and stuff like that. Yeah. If they
Lolo
exist...
Lolo was Sunsoft, right?
No, it was HAL Laboratory.
Makers of Kirby.
Okay. Jesus, I'm sorry.
I like it better than both of those games. So, but it is basically those things. Like
it's also a slight experience, let's call it.
It's a great Game Boy puzzle game because... basically, Game Boy puzzle games were either like reflex falling block type puzzle games, usually like Tetris or Dr. Mario or something. But then there are also like Sokoban clones. No, those are the two big things. And Sokoban doesn't have any kind of time element to it. It's just a puzzle screen, and you have to move things around in the right order so that you can get to your goal. The cool thing about Quirk is, number one, it stars, I believe, a tomato.
In sunglasses.
As was required of every, tude-bearing hero.
Make a small detour real quick. I want to bring up something.
Go ahead.
Does anyone remember a cartoon called The Power Team? I think it was part of Video Power.
I remember hearing of it, but I don't think I've ever seen a single episode.
I was vaguely aware of this, yes.
I've never seen it, but if you ever want to watch a cartoon,
it was Acclaim published characters, right? So Quirk was one of them.
Captain N with Acclaim, yeah.
Right.
Wow. What
another
property.
One of them. The other thing I remember of it was that one of them was like an arch rivals guy, but I might be wrong about
Tyrone, one of the basketball players, and Max Force, one of the officers from the incredibly gory digitized Eugene Jarvis game Narc. Very kid-friendly.
And the guy from Wizards and Warriors.
Oh, Kuros. Well, he's probably like the most relatively famous. Wizards and Warriors was apparently a bit of a fair deal back then, but what a motley crew, isn't it?
It's like the Avengers of crap. No, not really. Like, I like Wizards and Warriors is an okay game. Arch Rivals is, and Quirk is a great game. I like it. It's a great puzzle game. It's especially good for the Game Boy platform. It's one of the early Game Boy games, I think, that, a third-party game that really capitalized on the format.
Again, going back to Jeremy Parrish, as we mentioned in the episode prior to this, that's like I think there was already a Sokoban game. In fact, I'm sure there was.
We got Boxel first, I believe.
Yeah.
Boxel has amazing cover art. Check it out.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
That dude is the happiest box pusher I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who pushed boxes as one of my first jobs after college.
I don't know where he ranks against the shove it guy, but yeah, that dude is into it.
He's like a combination of like R. Crumbs, like Mr. Natural, and like a warehouse worker.
But
that's what I like about him.
Boxel itself is pretty much just plain Jane Sokoban, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is Sokoban.
It doesn't have.
It's a great comparison point where you can see a really bland, basic Sokoban, which personally I don't like. I'm sorry, I basically hate Sokoban clones.
So Boxel is one of those games where I think it's better than the Japanese game, even though they're identical, because we didn't get Sokoban, really. So that was not necessarily our first exposure. I'm sure there were like PC versions of Sokoban that somebody got, but nobody remembers. But Boxel was like the first time we really got that sort of thing. So it was pretty cool at the time. Like in Boxel still holds up. It's in Sokoban holds up, but they're good games.
I do want to say, if you look at this point from Game Boy World, which you should totally watch, it's great. You'll see that there are like a ton and tons and tons of puzzle games in the early Game Boy's lifespan, and this is probably one of the best of them. I'll be honest.
It's pretty high up there. There's also like Flip Hole or something, and he really likes.
It couldn't be Tetris certainly, but it's a good number. If you ever get tired of Tetris, this is a good number 2 puzzle.
There was a really good action puzzler, Psy Raid, I think, is worth checking out.
The ladder
kicking game, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is really like of pure like single screen Sokoban style games. It is a great iteration on Sokoban. It involves, so Sokoban is strictly box pushing, right?
Right.
As far as I know, yeah.
It is just box pushing. And so you got to push boxes in the right order and don't push a box into the corner where you can't, because you can't pull boxes. You can only
basically there are very few correct solutions, if not only one correct solution for a Sokoban puzzle.
And it's the same thing in Quirk. Quirk has like the tower kind of conceit that you get in Adventures of Lolo, where you're going like either further up or further down a tower. I don't know exactly which. I'm not sure it matters. You're trying to rescue some kind of vegetable queen, something.
I thought you were rescuing Mrs. Pacman.
I do think that maybe the toot on the front box is a little bit misleading, and I don't know if. I mean, I do like Quirk quite a bit.
If you look at the artwork for the Japanese versions, they're like clay characters. It's one of those great. Puzzle Boy, I think, has like a little clay characters on it, and there's.
I definitely missed the clay character box art, which was hugely popular for like.
I mean, they did a lot of those. We mostly know them in North America from Nintendo Power covers. The early Nintendo Power covers had a lot of clay character art.
For me, it makes me think of Earthbound.
Yeah, and Earthbound too, of course.
Quirk is do we mention that it's incredibly fiendish? Like it's.
Well, yeah,
I don't want to say that because I keep feeling like maybe I just suck at it more than other people do, but I found it very hard, and I still do.
Yeah, it's a difficult little puzzle game.
The catch of these puzzle games is that they do get really sadistic in later levels.
I do want to describe the gameplay just real quick, so you haven't touched on much of that. It is similar to Sokoban in that your main method of interaction is pushing boxes, but there's a lot of things besides box. You have pits that you need to push things in to fill them.
Right.
You have like turnstiles that you can push through, but you can't. You can move through, but you can't
pull
push
them.
Things through.
Right. Like that's the main thing about Sokobans. You can't pull things.
And at some points, you even have multiple characters. You have to coordinate things to get to the exit.
That's when it gets really crazy and really.
The goal is to always get to the exit. You don't have to push things in the right spots.
Right. With Sokoban, you're trying to push a box onto the X, which means something.
Because you don't. There are we did say like Sokobans have one solution. I think a lot of the times Quirk kind of has a little bit more flexibility. Like generally the solution is one thing, but you can kind of fudge your way to it a bit easier than Sokoban, where it's like, if you didn't push that block in this exact spot 20 moves ago, you screwed up now.
But unlike Sokoban, it's very hard to just look at a puzzle and figure it out before you do it. Sokoban, you can, because there's only one kind of pushable thing, which are boxes. And so when you look at it, although most people would play through it and retry until they figure it out, that's the fastest way to figure out a puzzle. But theoretically, you can just look at it and very easily figure out, not easily, but you should be able to figure out like, oh, okay, so you push that there, that there, that there. And you can do it that way without having to restart. With Quirk, it's much harder because there's a lot more variables at play. The turnstile things are the bane of my existence. They are incredibly difficult.
Even in the early levels, it took me like 10 freaking minutes to figure out how to operate them in this one level.
Which is what makes it such a great Game Boy game, I think.
It does give you a lot of content through its difficulty, I'll say.
It is.
Well, because the two modes are completely different, right? You've got like the complicated puzzle mode. You have like, what is it, like almost a random generated puzzle mode that's like timed? It's really odd. That's the going up is the normal puzzles, and going down sends you through like this gauntlet of micro puzzles that also are completely different to the normal game's puzzles, and they come in easy, normal, and hard, and you can choose to do several of them at once, which is really curious. Like you can say, oh, I want to do 20 rooms in a row, And then you have all these like micro puzzles that you have to get through.
Right.
I don't know how many of them there actually are and how random they are, but this
is I think like about the same time. What is this? It was 1989. This is kind of when Atlas is starting to become like a really incredible developer, I think, of these kinds of games. Not puzzle games, but I mean like they're really starting to. There's a lot of great stuff coming from Atlas starting about now.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if they were actually involved in the first Megami Tensei games for the Famicom. I don't know if they were, but if they were, those are friggin' good too. And have nothing to do. They were.
They were published by Namco, but I think they were Atlas.
Probably.
I mean, Atlas was also doing a lot of contract work at this time.
Right.
They did like Friday the 13th and other stuff. And these games are generally pretty. And Jaws, I think, for the NES.
Yeah.
These games are pretty well remembered. I mean, they're kind of And I did. I'm going to forget it right now. As a matter of fact, I'm forgetting it. It's gone. It's gone. I don't know what you said.
Success.
Power.
So let's rank it. I don't even want you to finish your
thought,
sentence.
Yeah.
Your
I
sentence
can't.
is done.
But yeah, anyway, it's the beginning of Atlas's prime. This is also like, I believe, what's the cat grappling hook game?
Link's the grappling hook cat. I'm pretty sure.
Don't give me the Japanese title. It's not what I'm asking. NY Yankees, I believe, was the Japanese
Rockin'
title.
Cats. Rockin' Cats.
Rockin' Cats, yeah.
I like that one.
Oh, I cannot believe I remember the Japanese title first.
Nerd.
You'll excuse me. I am going to die.
I think like, if you're looking for third-party, very early Game Boy games, like 1989 Game Boy games,
one of the best.
So it's worth considering when we rank it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm thinking, I mean, I guess just starting from like Super Mario Land in a way, because that's one of those games that we kind of ranked based on the place it held within the early Game Boy pantheon, so to speak. Because it was like, it's a pretty good, classic Mario game. But what really makes it good is that was on like a glorified calculator.
Well, Quirk is kind of fortuitous in that because it's on such a limited system, it doesn't bother you with any extraneous cruff.
No.
Like you have, it's just a simple pared down, very, very like well put together in terms of just puzzles, like puzzle game. And that's,
And for as varied as the puzzles get, they don't really add that much new stuff to it. Like you kind of, after playing it for maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, you're going to see almost everything the game could possibly throw at you. But
I'm pretty sure the first
so much worse. Yeah.
You can also actually say that about Super Mario Land.
Yes, yeah, that's true. It is a pretty short.
I would go ahead and suggest a ranking here between Descent and Advance Wars 2.
Yeah, you got to put it below Descent. Advance Wars 2 is a good comparison because it's another great game that's great for its platform.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
Final Fight is not a good comparison, which is right below Advance Wars 2. Final Fight's kind of like it will work on anything, but it's also kind of a one-trick pony, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean,
I might be going below Advanced Wars. Just because Quirk is kind of, I don't want to break out too many other games here. But I don't think we mentioned Chip's Challenge, but that was also a portable game, and it kind of does a lot with the same formula, except presents a lot more stuff to
by putting it below Final Fight, above Monsterland. We're also putting it above Blue Stinger, Contra the Hardcore, Ranger X, Ikaruga, Bushido Blade, Full Throttle.
It's a mighty list.
Right. I mean, we should note that there's no question that our list is very top heavy, which by that I mean that the first 50% of the games on our list are actually all very good.
They're amazing.
Whereas the bottom 50% is kind of a grab bag between average and abysmal. It's not the same kind of spread.
No, if we had like 1,000 games on the list, it might be a little bit less crazy. But one thing I want to say, and this is in Quirk's favor, and this is one of the reasons I actually really appreciate Quirk. Firstly, it's really, really, really well designed for the Game Boy. It's like the system, it is perfectly suited for the Game Boy. They've built it solidly. That's why so many of these early games are puzzle games. Scream for the Game Boy was horrible, blurry, barely see anything. Anything moves, it goes off and you can't see it.
Right.
Quirk, you can play 100%, no problem. It has 2 buttons. It doesn't really need them, but one of the buttons locks your player so that every time you press the D-pad direction, you only move a single square. They thought about it and went, if you want precise movement, you got it. It gives you.
You don't want to mess up by accident. You want to mess up intentionally and find out that you messed up.
And if you do mess up by accident, they do actually remember your steps. I don't know how many steps it remembers, but if you go into the reset pause menu, there's a little thing down the bottom that says back.
I mean, I think we got to get real here. Like, I love Quirk. It's one of my favorite Game Boy games. But I mean, I'm looking down on the list like Bat Rider, Street Fighter 3, Devil's Crush, Outrun, Snatcher. I'm putting it above Snatcher, below Outrun, actually. And that's not because I don't like Quirk. It's because I like Quirk, but I'm not going to like build it up into something.
I know Jeff shot it pretty high. I had been originally looking at somewhere around Armed Police Bat Rider, had been like somewhere in that general region.
I could put it like, personally, I like it better than Devil's Crush. I feel like Devil's Crush is a fantastic game, and I admire its crafts, but it was just as hard, if not harder, to create a game like Quirk and make it work well. A puzzle game has to be fair and fun and have kind of staying power, like, you know, something you're going to want to keep picking up every time you have to, you know.
Well, what I like about Quirk is that a lot of the other puzzle games, and this includes Tetris, on the Game Boy, especially at the time, were like, here's our mechanic. Okay, go try and play all the different puzzles with our mechanic.
Right.
It's like, we have like 7 or 8 mechanics, and we're going to mix them up, and then we're going to give you a second mode, which completely rechanges how the mechanics kind of work.
Right.
And that's really cool that they're like, they
really
took
cool.
They crammed as much as they could.
And so you're suggesting directly beneath Outrun?
I'm actually suggesting directly beneath Street Fighter 3.
I guess your question is like, I mean, is it better than Devil Crush, but not as good as Street Fighter?
You know,
3?
Honestly, I want to put it. That's a good point. I want to put it above Street Fighter 3 just because Street Fighter 3 is a refinement of existing good gameplay, whereas Quirk is sort of that, but it's also kind of sort of its own. You know, I mean, because the genre didn't really continue much beyond that. Okay. We didn't even get the sequel, Puzzle Boy 2.
Wait, we did. It's called Amazing Tater over here.
Oh, you're right.
It's called Amazing
It's just really
Tater.
super rare.
That's a great name, isn't it?
I've never played it. Yeah, I've never played it. It's very hard to find.
Yeah, it pretty much just looks like more of the same. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it might.
No.
That just says that Quirk really knocked it out of the park
Yeah.
on its first shot.
Quirk works.
Okay. So what about above UN Squadron or above Sin and Punishment, something like that?
I don't think it's above Sin and Punishment.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay.
Like at this point.
You guys have successfully talked me down from my initial position, but yeah, between Sin and Punishment and UN Squadron.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, me too.
I'm not going to argue.
Done. It's done.
I'm not going to argue. Let's go.
It doesn't matter if you do, because it's done.